students. The topic of our lecture is legislation and judicial precedent as a source of law. So next I will discuss the objective of the lecture. The first, it will explain the legislature and the judicial precedent as a source of law. It will also help to understand the meaning of the term legislation. It will also cover the different kind of legislation, your subordinate legislation, your supreme legislation. Then this lecture will also help to understand what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages of legislation as a source of law. And lastly, it will explain the judicial precedent as well as the other sources of law. So the term legislation, it is derived from two Latin words, leges and litem. Legis means a law and litem means to make, put or set. So what does the term legislation means? The legislation means the law making process. The legislation, it is derived from a Latin word legislatum. It is a particular exercise in which the powers and functions of making rules, they are made by the authority. There is an authority, they will exercise their power of making the rules, and these set of rules, they are known as legislation. And these rules, they are formulated in the form of the act or statute. So now I will discuss the definition of the term legislation. So different jurists has given the different definition to the term legislation. So in this particular lecture, we will only take the three definitions. The one is that is given by Salmond. Then one more definition we will discuss, that is by Professor Gray. And the last is the definition given by the Austin. So firstly, I will take the definition of the term legislation given by Salmond. So legislation is that source of law which consists in the declaration of the legal rules by competent authority. So what the Salmond is saying, that legislation, it is a source of law. It is a source of law, and this source of law, it is contained in the legal rules which are made by the competent authority. The authority who is having the powers to make the law. So this is all about the definition of Salmond. Now the second definition which we are taking, that is the definition of the term legislation given by Professor Gray. The Professor Gray has defined the term legislation as former utterance of the legislative organ of the society. That whatever the words or whatever the rules, they are uttered by the legislative organ of the society, it will be the legislation. And the last definition which we are taking, that is the definition given by the Austin. So Austin, it includes that the legislation, it includes the activities which results in the lawmaking or amending the law or transforming or inserting the new sections or the provisions in the existing law. So these are the definitions of the term legislation. So legislations, they are of various types. So I will not discuss the types of legislation. The legislation, it is divided into two main categories. The one is supreme legislation and the second is subordinate legislation. So the supreme legislation is the act or statute which is passed by the supreme authority or the supreme law-making body of the particular country. For example, in India, the supreme legislative authority is the Parliament of India. So whatever the acts and statutes which are passed by the Parliament of India, that is the supreme legislation. And the second is the subordinate legislation. The subordinate legislations are the legislations which are passed by the subordinate authorities or the authorities who are not having the primary function of lawmaking. For example, your executive. Sometimes your executive, they are also empowered by virtue of the delegated legislation to make your laws or rules or regulations or bylaws. These rule, regulation and bylaws, they are the subordinate legislation which are made by the authority which is not having the primary lawmaking function. So subordinate legislation is further divided into 5 types. The one is municipal legislation, the second is executive legislation, the third is colonial legislation, fourth is your autonomous legislation, and the last is your judicial legislation. So I will discuss all these 5 types one by one. The first is municipal legislation. The municipal legislation is the legislation which is made by the particular municipality or the particular municipal organ of the particular country. That is known as municipal legislation. This is also known as municipality legislation. And the second term we are having, that is executive legislation. The executive legislation are the rules and bylaws which are made by the executive authority, and all these executive authorities, they are empowered to make the laws by virtue of the delegation of law-making powers by legislative organs itself. The legislative organs themselves, they have made the process to delegate their powers to the executives, that they can also make the rules and regulation in certain situations. So whenever these rules and regulations, they are made by such executive officers, that is known as executive legislation. Now the next is colonial legislation. The colonial legislation, it is also the subordinate legislation. This is the legislation which is there when the colonies are prevalent in the India, and the rules and regulations which are prevalent at these colonies, that is known as colonial legislation. The fourth we are having, that is autonomous legislation. The autonomous legislation is the legislation which is passed by the private entities. The legislation which is passed by the autonomous bodies. For example, your private entities, any university or a company. The university or a company, they will have their own rules and regulations or the bylaws which are to be followed by all the people who are there in the university or all the people who are working in the particular company. So these particular set of rules and regulations, they are known as autonomous legislation. So last is the judicial legislation. The judicial legislation are the rules and regulations which are made by the judicial officers. For example, there are certain powers in the hand of the judicial officers that they can make the rules and regulations pertaining to the appointment of their ministerial officers. So all these set of rules and regulations, that is known as your judicial legislation. So I will discuss the supreme legislation briefly. Supreme legislation is the legislation which is made by such authority which is having the primary lawmaking function. Such authorities, they are not controlled by any other authority, and this is the law which is made by the sovereign power of the state directly. So the legislation is called supreme because it cannot be challenged by any other authority. Whenever the laws, they are made by such authority, it will be binding on all the subjects in a country. The example of the supreme legislation is the law which is made by the parliament, as well as in the other countries also, the Parliament of England. Whenever the laws, they are made by the Parliament of England also, it will be included in the supreme legislation because they are the primary authorities who are having the lawmaking function. As well as these legislation, it cannot be challenged by any other authority. These particular laws and bylaws, they are to be used by the other authority. They cannot be challenged. It is to be adhered or followed by the other authority. For example, executive and judiciary, they are going to follow it, they are going to adhere it. They cannot challenge it, they cannot set it aside. So such legislations which are made by the primary law giving authority, that is known as your supreme legislation. So subordinate legislation, as I have already discussed, it is a legislation which proceeds from any other authority than the sovereign power. Nor it is therefore dependent on its continuous existence as well as validity on the supreme authority of lawmaking. So whenever such particular rules and regulations are made by the authorities who are not primarily having the lawmaking powers, the continuance of those regulations as well as rules and their validity, it is decided by the supreme legislative authority. So such piece of legislation, such set of rules and regulations, that is known as subordinate legislation. So now what is the validity of the subordinate legislation? The parent act under which the subordinate legislation is exercising its powers, the parent act, it provides the validity to the rules and regulations which are made by the subordinate legislative body. So the parent act, it has empowered those particular authorities. They have delegated the legislative powers to them, and under those particular provisions, the subordinate authority, they will make the rules and regulation. There will be the delegation clause also. The delegation clause will be there in the parent act, and when the delegation clause is there in the parent act, then only the subordinate legislation will be a valid legislation. The third is, there will be the statutory instrument, and this statutory instrument, it must be made in conformity with the delegated clause. Whenever law it is made by the delegated legislator, all the things which are to be taken into consideration, the points relating to the substance, the point relating to the procedure as well as form, it is to be adhered by every set of the legislation made by the subordinate legislative authority. The statutory instrument, it must not violate whatever the law it is made by the subordinate legislative body. It must not violate certain general norms which are laid down in the judicial decisions also, such as it should not be against the public policy, should not be against the natural law principles also. So all these things are to be taken into consideration, and these general norms, if they are not infringed, then in that case that statutory instrument will be a valid subordinate legislation. The last is, the statutory instrument must not violate any fundamental right, because as we all know there is Article 13. Article 13 is judicial review. Then if there is any law which is violative of fundamental right, even if it is made by the legislator itself, it is a bad law and it can be set aside. Similarly is the case of the subordinate legislation, that if the subordinate legislative body, they have made any piece of act and statute which is violative of the fundamental rights, then in that case the validity of subordinate legislation, that is also questioned and it can also be set aside. Next I will take what are the advantages of the legislation. So legislation, it is the best and the most reliable source. Why it is the best and most reliable source? Because all the rules and regulations, they come in a single enactment in a written form of law, and every element of the crime as well as everything which is there in the particular rule, it is well explained in the sections and the articles, as well as the punishment, it is well defined in the particular piece of statute. So it is the best and the most reliable source. The second is, it is rigid and applicable irrespective of the crime. So legislation, it is a rigid one. It will not leave any space to the person that they are having any choice that whether they want to get operated by that particular piece of legislation or not. Irrespective of any crime or irrespective of anything, they have to follow that particular thing, that is known as, it is a rigid form of law. It is not going to be according to the wishes of the people. So it is compulsorily to be followed by every person. It is rigid one, and application is not as per the wish of the person, that today I want to get regulated by the Indian Penal Code, and tomorrow when I am in a mood to commit any particular offense, I will say I will not be coming under the operation of Indian Penal Code. So legislation, it is the best source. Why it is the best source? Because it is very accurately written. Everybody knows what is there in the law. It is rigid one. It is not giving any option to the people to choose in its operation. The third is, the modern states, they give more importance to it. Why the modern state they give more importance to it? Because the human interactions, they are more complex in the modern state, and these human interactions, they must be regulated by certain set of the rules and principles. If these certain set of the rules and principles, they are not in the society, then in that case the things can get easily motivated by the people wish, and which can lead to the chaos in the society. So in order to maintain the peace and order, the legislation, it is very important in the modern state. Now the next is, the legislation, it always give a room to make new laws to the society. New laws they are made in the society, new laws they are formulated to the society by the process of legislation. Whenever there is a need of any change in the law also, there can be the amendment in the legislation also. So whenever there is a social change, the society gets changed, the new laws, they can also be formulated by the legislation, because legislators, they can introduce the bills for the passing of new laws. And the last is social control. It is also possible. As I have already discussed, everybody knows what are the standards to be adhered in the society. Everybody knows what is the quantum of punishment they will get if they don't follow those rules. So social control, it is very possible, because it also creates the deterrence in the mind of the people, that we will not do, or we will not subject ourselves to the deteriorated acts. And if there is any conflict, then everybody knows what will be the justice in a particular case. So social control, it is very easily can be introduced in the society through legislation. So we have already discussed what are the advantages of legislation as a source of law. Along with the advantages, there are certain disadvantages also. So what are the disadvantages? The first is the certain legislations, they abridge the rights of the individuals and they are subjected to the judicial reviews also. You can see there are certain enactments which are totally against the particular fundamental rights or the natural principles, and that's why they are subjected to the judicial reviews, and later on they are repealed as well as amendments they are made in those laws. So legislation sometimes they abridge the rights of individuals also, and they are referred to the judicial reviews and accordingly they have to be changed. So you can't say that whenever there is a piece of enactment, it is going to give a certain bundle of rights and obligations to the individuals, which will lead to the more advancement in the society. Sometimes it also abridge or it is also against the basic rights of individuals. So second is the legislation, it results into amendment into constitution, and sometimes it leads to the conflict between legislator and the judiciary. So sometimes the legislator, the new enactments they are formulated in order to overcome the judicial precedents. And this is also a biggest disadvantage. And sometimes the actual social transformation which is needed in the society that lacks due to the new legislations which are made by the legislators. And these legislations, they are the outcome of the conflict between legislators and the judiciary. So in this way, the legislator, it also creates a wrong effect on the progress of society. So judicial precedent, it is also the source of law. So judicial precedent, it is the source of law in which the previous decisions which are given by the higher judiciary, they creates some landmarks or the laws or the rules which the lower judges they have to follow in the similar cases. So the judicial precedent, it is the source of law in which the rules and decisions they are set by the higher judiciary to be followed by the lower judiciary. So there are various types of the judicial precedent. The first is the declaratory precedent. The declaratory precedent is the that precedent in which only the application of the already existing rule in any legal matter is there. They are only applying the already existing rule in the legal matter. That is known as declaratory precedent. The next is original precedent. Original precedent is that precedent where a new law it is created or applied in a legal matter. An original precedent, they are responsible for the creation of the new laws. And here the judiciary, they are also doing the law making function, the new type of the laws which for which there is no legislative enactment in the society. These original precedents, they led as the uh, set of rules and principles to be followed till the new act it is passed by the legislator. The third is the persuasive precedent. So persuasive precedent is that precedent where the judge is not required to follow the precedent in a legal matter, but they will take precedent only in consideration. It is on the wish of the judge whether they want to give the judgment in accordance to the decision given by the higher court or not. So such type of the precedents in which judge is not bound to follow the precedent, that is known as persuasive precedent. And the next fourth is absolutely authoritative precedent. So absolutely authoritative precedent are those precedents which are to be compulsorily followed in the judicial decision. These are the judicial decisions, even if they are wrong, they are to be followed by the judges, the lower judges in the similar situations. So that is known as absolutely authoritative precedent, where there is no wish of the judge whether to follow it or not. Even if it is a bad law, it is to be followed till it is amended or it is ratified by the same bench or a higher bench of the higher court. And the last we are having, that is conditionally authoritative precedent. So conditionally authoritative precedents are those precedents or the decisions which are also having the absolute authoritativeness, but sometimes in the special circumstances they are not taken into regard, they are not taken into consideration in deciding the similar situations. So in those situations the lower court they are having the power that they will not take into consideration those authoritative precedents. There are other sources of the law. such as the books and the commentaries also. The books on the particular subject in which explanations they are also given, the interpretations they are given by the writers. These books they also serve as a source of law. Your law commission reports, all the law commission reports, they are also a very good historical source of law. Then the reports of the research as well as research papers, these are also the secondary source of law in which the law it is interpreted as well as explained by the researcher or the writers. So they also serve as a source of law in a particular country.